Welcome to the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff, and on today's show, we are actually going to answer some of your questions on a Miami Heat mailbag during the All-Star break. If you do not see how to get your questions on the show, well, you got to be subscribed because we put it on our community page and asked for some questions, and we took the top 7 or 8 to put on this episode. And we'll start with Devon Smith, 8594. What are our plans for the future? Because if it's been Bam and Tyler this whole time, then we should have just been building around them rather than just waiting for the Jimmy project to end. Well, the future of the Miami Heat is certainly the biggest question mark because it does certainly seem like the Heat will move forward with a Tyler Hero Bam Adebayo build, but the question we have to ask ourselves, and I already think I know the answer, what is the ceiling of a team that is headlined by Tyler Hero and Bam? To me, it's a first-round exit in the postseason. Maybe if you catch a right injury or get hot in a playoff series, you're a second-round exit. That's the ceiling for this team. You need a third guy that ultimately is probably your number one. Because if we're going to be honest here, as good as Bam and Tyler can be individually at times, the Heat know that those two can't lead them to the title. At least they should know that. They need an all-NBA guy to lead them, be the number one option, and then have Bam or Tyler be the 2 or 3 on any given night. And with Bam's two-way ability, he is a perfect co-star. We've seen that with Jimmy Butler. And with Hero improving, he's a fantastic third option. So the question is, how are they going to get that third guy that ultimately becomes the number one in Miami? Is it by hitting on a ridiculous lottery pick like Giannis Antetokounmpo in the late lottery, Kawhi Leonard at 15, Nikola Jokic in the second round? Are you going to try to luck into a player like that, or are you going to try to mortgage some of these surrounding pieces like Jovic, Jaquez, salary fillers, and 3 tradable first-round picks to go out and get a guy? That's the biggest question. I think the answer is probably the latter. I think they're looking to hopefully see a superstar ask out, and they stockpiled enough draft picks over this year and next year to get in and make that trade to complement Tyler and Bam. If you didn't get your question on today's show, I said you got to be subscribed, but you also can do it by asking me on Twitter/X. You got to follow me, though. Handle is at Nic_Rohloff. I'm talking about the Miami Heat on a daily basis, so if you want to ask me a question, my mentions, DMs, make sure you go give me a follow. Let's move it over to Razor here. Rolly, I've been a fan of the Heat for a long time, and I've been curious. Ever since we formed the Big Three, the league has hated our guts since. I don't think this hate ever left the league since then. Do you think the hate we get for that was justified, overblown, or hypocritical? Well, I don't really know what you're trying to get at here, Razor. Was the Miami Heat the most hated team in the league with Bosh, Wade, and LeBron? Absolutely. No questions about that. They were despised across the league. But I don't think that hate still seeps into today. I know Heat fans don't like the way we get treated sometimes by the media and some other analysts out there. And sometimes you question, do they hate us actually because of Adam Silver making the memo last year about Damian Lillard not being able to request a trade specifically to Miami? I don't think the league actually hates the Miami Heat. I do think it's hypocritical of what happened in the NBA, because when you're talking about building a big three, Boston actually did it first with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. So I'm really not that guy to be like, I can't believe the league hates us. Like, it was done before us. I don't think the NBA actually despises the Miami Heat. That's how I'm going to answer that question. I think this is Maya's world, but the tag was Robertson355 because only Maya's world says Nicky Rolle. Do you see Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball or Lonzo Ball coming to the Miami Heat? Let's go Heat Nation. Where y'all at? Been watching the Miami Heat since LeBron James came and helped us win a championship. Well, interesting little profile picture you got there, Maya's world with the Lakers logo. I think I say that every time. But when you talk about what could be next for the Miami Heat, I've talked about wanting Lonzo Ball for a while, but that was just as a mid-tier starting point guard to complement Bam, Tyler, and others. But if you're looking to add someone, to this roster that can win an NBA championship and help you go to the next level, I think LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards are probably much closer to that. LaMelo Ball, even though he's an unbelievable good player, I don't think is a player that is conducive to winning. He's a stats guy. He's a highlight dude. But when it gets down to it, can he defend? Can he get in his stance and make a play in the clutch? And can his offensive ability and inefficiencies at time hold him back in the postseason. To me, he's a volume guy on a bad team right now. Yeah, he's very talented. He's got good size, but I don't think he's a winning basketball player. Now, Anthony Edwards is a different kind of conversation, and we'll have that in just a second. But who is it? Name your dream trade target for the Miami Heat. Right now, over the next 2.5 seasons, who do you think could come available, and who do you think Miami should trade for to try to take that next step in the NBA hierarchy? The name that was mentioned there, Anthony Edwards, is my dream trade target. And I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to think he could ask out from Minnesota. The Timberwolves are not a big time market. It's going to be tough to attract free agents there. So they got to build their team through the draft and through trades. And with Edwards seeing Karl-Anthony Towns leave and flourish in New York with the Knicks, Rudy Gobert's his co-star. If they don't get a really good second or third option to Anthony Edwards and they continue to struggle in the middle of that Western Conference and become first, second round exits consistently over the next 2 seasons, I believe Edwards can ask out around the 2027 year. And I think Miami is kind of banking on him doing that. Edwards is a really good fit in Miami. He's got a pretty solid relationship with Spoelstra and Adebayo due to their time on the Olympics together. I think Anthony Edwards is the pipe dream for me. I also think it's the pipe dream for Pat Riley in this front office. I truly believe that they're hoping that he is their next whale that asks out soon, and they've just hopefully stockpiled enough draft capital and young assets to make that trade if it ultimately comes to it. Move over to 4 arrows for all. What would this team look like if both Bam and Tyler were playing at an all-star or near all-star level at the same time? It's a good question. Probably the same, if we're going to be honest. Just due to the inconsistencies of the role players with Miami. Like, Jovic has been good at times, but he's also been unplayable at times. Ware, you could say the same thing. Jaquez has been unplayable most of the season. Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith. The issue is role players are always going to be inconsistent, but it just is too inconsistent for Miami. And yeah, Hero's been an all-star for most of the season, and it feels like Bam Adebayo almost stole his ability here because over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, Bam Adebayo has been playing at an all-star, all-NBA level, but that's right as Tyler Hero started to dip his efficiency and his level of play. So it's the fact that those two have not been able to play at an all-star level together over the past 2 or 3 weeks, which has really hindered this team. I think they would probably just still be a 6, 7, 8 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think it would be a much better team. Don't get it twisted. But even if those two are playing at an all-star level, which they are capable of doing, I don't think they're better than an Indiana, Milwaukee, Cleveland, New York, or Boston, which leaves them in that 6, 7, 8 range with the Pistons, Magic, and everyone in between. I have more questions to answer here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, my favorite daily fantasy sports platform that I play on a daily basis. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action in sports. It's available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Prize Picks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And the reason why I love Prize Picks is because you can play in so many different ways, daily, season long. You can combine players on different teams, same teams, across different sports leagues. Like, I'm going to baseball professionally for a season-long entry. More than Paul Skeens strikeouts, more than Tarek Skubal strikeouts, and then more than Jaron Duran home runs. You can do that combined with basketball, college, professional, hockey. You can go wherever you want to go with Prize Picks. So download the app today and make sure you sign up using code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Lou with a question, and boy, is this a lengthy one. Don't want to sound like a defeatist, but should the Heat just cut their losses this season and not worry about even barely making the play-in tournament? As of now, I don't see things getting much better, and maybe it would suit them better to try and get 2 decent draft picks this summer instead. They're still a relatively young team, so it shouldn't hurt them too bad realistically. Oh, and is it all possible to get rid of Terry Rozier ASAP? Why isn't Spo letting him ride the pine at this point? All right, so we'll answer the first question a little bit quickly here, and then we'll get to the Rozier point. Well, all I'll say is that you asked this question before we put out this video, but watch our Friday video about wanting to tank, because I talked a full 14 minutes plus about how the Heat should probably purposely lose games, even though they won't, to get higher and higher into this loaded NBA draft class. And then with the Terry Rozier stuff, you're not going to be able to get rid of him this season. Trade deadline is obviously passed. The Miami Heat will not buy out Terry Rozier at this moment. I do believe Eric Spoelstra should continue to bench him and let young guys play and let them get experience like Kel'el Larson, Davion Mitchell, and others on this team. But a trade with Rozier in the offseason is certainly possible. The question is, would Miami be willing to attach draft capital to move off of Rozier? I'm not so sure they would be willing to do that. Maybe they trade him at the deadline as an expiring and they attach a couple second-round picks or get second-round picks, I'm sure, next year, maybe. Or maybe they use Terry Rozier as a big-time $26 million contract to move in a blockbuster trade this offseason. I don't think Rozier should be on the roster next season, but right now, Miami is stuck with them for at least the remaining 6-7 weeks in the season. All right, make sure you do hit that sub button because for the last 7-8 weeks of the year, we will be here with news, rumors, live shows, and mailbags. So join the channel, hit that sub button for daily Miami Heat coverage because no matter how far or how short the season goes, we'll have you covered. Bob Sanders 102 with a question. Could the Miami Heat trade Jaime Jaquez Jr. in the offseason? Well, to think of trading Triple J this past offseason, you would have had to assume that the Heat were getting a superstar or all-star level player in return because that's how good Jaime was as a rookie. But with how bad he has been this season and what is probably one of the most egregious sophomore slumps I have seen in a while, I could absolutely see Miami looking to trade Jaquez. Now, I don't think they'll trade Jaquez Jr. in just terms of getting rid of him to get him off the team like they would try to do with a Terry Rozier type of player. But there is no way Miami can realistically hold on to Jaquez any longer. If a team wants him in a trade and you need to add him as a sweetener to get it over the top or use him in a big blockbuster deal, you have to do it because he's gotten worse in every single category this season. Maybe he's been a little bit of a better rebounder and less minutes per game, but he's been less efficient. His three-point shot has not improved, which is the biggest disappointment to me. He has no bag. He can't score on his own. He's a good off-ball guy, but with the inability to shoot from beyond the arc, then what can you really bring to an offense that already struggles with shooting from the three-point line over the last 2 or 3 weeks? But what say you? Should Jaime Jaquez Jr. be traded in the offseason? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I want to make it clear he's still a relatively young player on a good contract, so I am not trading him away for scraps and just trying to get rid of him. But if he is needed to complete a different transaction that would make your team better, there's no hesitation from me. All right, I believe this is the last question we're having on today's show. Extreme Jimmy Butler fan. What would happen if the Heat got rid of everyone except Bam? What could they do personally? I would try to trade Hero and Jovic away for SGA if we get lucky. Well, I'll tell you one thing here. The Oklahoma City Thunder will not be trading SGA. He is the arguably top 3, top 5 player in terms of trade assets. Like, think about it. Probably Victor Wembanyama is the number 1 player in the NBA. Giannis is up there. Luka's up there, but he got traded. Probably a player like Nikola Jokic. Like, these guys are untradeable, like you would think at least. Hero and Jovic also wouldn't even get it done. Like, you'd have to trade probably Bam to make OKC even think about getting rid of SGA unless Gilgeous-Alexander requested a trade, but I don't see that happening because he's in a really good situation and they're committed to paying him and building a team around him. But the first part of this question is very intriguing. I think it's something Miami should consider. Now, it won't happen. They won't trade away everyone, but could you cash in this offseason with Tyler Hero having his trade value at the absolute highest? Like, let's be honest, his trade value probably will never be higher than it will be right now in this upcoming offseason. Could Miami deal him away for a superstar or someone on a similar level that they think is a better fit? Or could they just trade him for multiple first-round picks to develop your chest of assets and kind of lean into a full rebuild here? It's an intriguing idea. Well, make sure you are subscribed because, like I said, we'll have you covered every single day with content, whether it's a live watch party, whether it's a video. We'll have you covered for the rest of the NBA season, but realistically, 365 days as well. So join the channel today.